welcome to Chapter 9. I am your host, Rachel Polanski. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm also in the driver's seat for the first time today, so bear with me if I take some of the wrong cameras. We'll see how that goes. And of course, I'm joined by Christina Galvin, my
I'm
co-host.
so proud of you. They grow up so fast.
Oh my gosh. And look, there's both of us.
You're doing so great.
And then a little teaser. Look what we can do now. It's really
Look at that
fun.
beautiful TV.
I know. Things are really just moving along here. So thank you for joining us today. First up, we're going to talk about the Friends of Central Library author series, or FOCAL. We have talked about them before, and we've interviewed the president. And basically how it works is really cool. They bring all different authors to Syracuse, and they do these really cool discussions where people can go and meet the authors and hear from them. And so last year, they had Percival Everett, Liz Moore, and Robert Dugoni come. Percival Everett wrote James, Liz Moore, The God of the Woods, and Robert Dugoni, My Sister's Grave. Chrissy and I both read, and I think we talked about it in book club, James.
Oh, so good.
And we loved it.
And what I loved about the series, too, is it brought us new authors that we didn't really think about. You know, like we may have heard of, may have sound familiar, but when I was able to pick up James for the first time, wouldn't have been a book that had I was gravitating towards, because it was something based on, you know, what happened in real life versus I love the psychological thrillers, but being able to get out of your comfort zone by reading these type of books, it just opens up a brand new world of what you can get into book-wise. And I just thought it was so great that we were able to have these authors come into town, and there's still a few that are left. I know, Rach, you're looking forward to seeing Jodi Kantor come into town.
I'm so excited. So Jodi Kantor is a New York Times investigative reporter. For a lot of you that don't know my background, I'm in another life, I was an investigative reporter.
Still are.
Yeah, I still do. Yeah, I still do them too.
Give yourself credit.
Well, thank you. So that's just a big passion for me. And she was part of the duo, her and Megan Twohey, that broke the Harvey Weinstein scandal. And so She Said is the name of the book, and they just detail all of their investigative reporting and how they got all of these people to share their stories, which took months and months and months, and how they even, you know, got a hold of celebrities who, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow, like how did they even, you know, make that connection? It's not, you don't just email Gwyneth, you know what I mean? So it's just really interesting insight into their story. And I do think, you know, even though we are reporters and we look at it through a different lens, even somebody who wasn't a reporter would appreciate it.
Oh, big time.
So I'm excited about that one. We'll be reading that one a little bit later. Also coming later this year is T.J. Klune, who wrote The House in the Cerulean Sea, which is
has
also
become
so
one of your
good.
top favorites for the year, you tell me.
It's so
Still
good.
trying to get me to read fantasy, but Rach could not recommend this book enough.
Yeah, so again, they get really good authors. Chrissy, we got the chance last year to interview Robert Dugoni when he was in town. And we admitted to him that we hadn't read his work. And in that interview, we asked him, I forget what we said. We're like, if someone was watching, they never read your work, what would you read?
Which one would you pick? Yeah.
Right.
And he ended up going with My Sister's Grave, and we'll dive a little bit into that too. But overall, it was just a fantastic interview. He has a journalistic background, and it was so fun to be able to talk to him about his experience thus far. And you know what, Rach? I think we should just take it away.
Yeah, so we interviewed him. Here it is. Take a watch. We are here with best-selling author Robert Dugoni. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you are visiting Syracuse as part of the author series. Tell us first a little bit about your trip here, how it's going so far.
The trip was boring, which is how I like my plane rides. I don't want any drama. So it was great. I got in last night, and the people from the Friends of the Central Library have just been fantastic. They picked me up at the airport and made me feel at home.
Perfect.
Well, you have a lot of fans that are excited to meet you, and clearly you've gone through so much in your life that has gotten you to this point. Just kind of, if you can, just kind of talk about the journey that you've went through. So you've lived so many lives to get to the point where you become an author. Just how did you get to this point?
Yeah, I have, and it's sort of a typical story of most authors I know. There is no such thing as an overnight success. People discover you and they say, oh, you're an overnight success. And I say, yeah, it only took me 10 years, to get there. I was a lawyer I went to law school and I became a lawyer, and I was a lawyer in the Bay Area for about 13, 14 years, and then literally had one of those epiphanies that you have in your life where I woke up, I had an 18-month-old son, my wife. I woke up, I put my feet on the floor, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I always wanted to write. I was a reporter before I went to law school, and I kind of chickened out, got away from it. And so after 13 years practicing law, I gave it a shot and failed many times. I think I had 44 rejection letters.
Wow.
But the other thing I found out about those authors that have had some success is you're just persistent. You just keep going forward. And that's what I did. You just keep putting one foot in front of the next, and you see where it takes you.
Wow.
Was there a turning point in your career when things really took off?
2012. I had been let go by a very large New York publishing house, and I had to reinvent myself. And my agent said to me, give me something new. And so I came up with the character of Tracy Crosswhite, first female homicide detective in Seattle, based upon the first female homicide detective in Seattle. And I wrote a book called My Sister's Grave. And I really wasn't sure how it was going to do. And I went to Amazon Publishing. And I sat down at a meeting with them, and there was 12 people at the table, and I was the oldest person there by about 20 years. It was like being in a startup company. And I just realized these were people that really loved my writing and would really promote and push my writing. And so My Sister's Grave went viral and hit big, and that was the change.
You really found your, craft when it comes to the mystery and thriller. What inspired you to kind of get into that genre, and do you see yourself continuing with that theme with your other books too?
What really inspired me was I was in law school, and Scott Turow wrote Presumed Innocent.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's the easiest path. That's why I went to law school, right? It's serendipity. I'm gonna write legal thrillers, and I did. And when I finally had a few published, it was great. But then the legal thriller sort of started to wane a little bit, and police procedurals are always big. So I moved in that direction. But I grew up reading books like The Count of Monte Cristo and The Old Man and the Sea and The Great Gatsby, and I always thought of myself as that's what I wanted to do. And so I had this book in my back pocket that just sort of hit me out of the blue one morning, and I wrote The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hell, which is a literary novel. Mm-hmm. And I think my agents and my editors were all a little,
Sure, it's different.
Yeah, it was different, and I was having so much success with the Tracy Crosswhite series. But they gave it a shot, and The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hell took off, and they said to me, write us another one. And then I wrote The World Played Chess, a coming-of-age story of 3 young men, one who's going off to Vietnam. And most recently I did a historical literary novel called Hold Strong about World War II, 2 people separated during the war who find their way back to each other. So I don't know where I'm going. I really don't. I just get hit by an idea, and then I sort of push it.
Okay.
Yeah. Take a shot on yourself.
Yeah, you really kind of have to. I think it's like any career. You have to say to yourself, I like what I do, and just have confidence and have faith that you can pull it off.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rachel.
No, I was just going to say you're incredibly prolific. What is your routine or your secret to just writing so consistently?
Write every day. I mean, I was on the airplane yesterday and had my laptop open, and I was working, I was writing. So I try to write every day that I'm working on a project, that I'm working on a book. I take time off, obviously, now. I used to work 7 days a week. My wife said, that's not really going to be. So I do take time off. But when I get into the flow of a story, I try to keep it. Because as kind of woo-woo as it sounds, you do get into that flow where the muse is talking to you. And you don't want that muse to go away. You want it to stay. And so I'm very fast. The first draft, I just regurgitate. I just tell the story that's being told to me, and I get it out on page. And then when that's done, I take a little bit of time, step back, and then I go back and I begin the editing process.
What do you say to either a new or a seasoned writer when they feel like they're running into writer's block?
Get out and do things. get out and exercise, get the endorphins flowing, go visit the place that you're writing about. I had an author tell me one time that our stories come from our research. And it's become very easy to sit in your office and do research now, you know, with AI and all the other things going on. But there's something to be said about going someplace and being in that environment and sort of allowing the spirits, if you will, not to sound, like I said, too woo-woo, to sort of fill you in. I just got back from Scotland with my wife, and, you know, to go in those old castles, sort of like, you know, you just sit and you think to yourself, who's lived here and what did they do? And I think that's kind of jumpstarts your brain and gets you writing again.
And you know, we mentioned you started as a reporter, you've been a lawyer. How did these other careers help shape your storytelling?
Well, the first thing they taught me was how to work, right? I mean, it taught me how to put my butt in a chair and how to sit there and how to work for 8 hours, 10 hours a day. And I think that was the most prominent thing. The reporter part was great because it taught me how to ask questions. And so, you know, I have a lot of people that have helped me with my novels, a lot of police people, people in forensics, people in homicide detectives, patrol detectives, traffic detectives. And so I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and say, hey, my name is Bob Degoni, I'm writing a novel, would you be willing to, can I take you to lunch, would you be willing to tell me what you do? And I basically interview them, and again, that's another way to break writer's block, is to go out and talk to people and find out what they do. So, you know, both those careers, I think, as much as I've often said, geez, if I didn't go to law school, where would I'm glad I did, because I think they both have played a part in the success that I've had.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
If someone's picking up a Robert Degoni book for the first time, which book would you recommend?
Yeah, do you have a favorite?
I get this question a lot, and I always say, what do you like to read? So if you like to read mysteries, pick up My Sister's Grave. If you like to read literary novels, pick up The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hill. If you're looking for a historical novel, World War II, pick up Hold Strong. If you want a historical novel, pick up The World Played Chess. So it really depends on what the person likes, what they want to read.
It's funny you say that, because Rachel and I always gravitate towards the thrillers and mystery, and obviously that was the first genre that I, you know, went to when seeing all of the different stories. But it's really a testament to how diverse your portfolio has grown over the years. You said you have roughly 30 books, and you don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
No, I don't. You know, a writer that I've always admired was Stephen King, because, you know, he started in horror and he moved over, and he's written really everything.
Yes.
And I heard him interviewed one time, and he said, "I'm a writer. I write stories. I don't know what genre they are. I let somebody else decide that." And
like
so
that.
that's kind of how I feel. Is you know, I'm obviously not a Stephen King, but I like that idea of being able to just write stories and let somebody else find the market for them.
Sure.
So you touched on an author that inspires you. What about, are there any books, you know, what are your favorite books, either, you know, of the year, of the last 10 years? Do you have any favorites?
Well, like I was saying, I grew up reading the classics.
Sure.
But I think the books that really hit home for me, the first was Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. Just probably the preeminent Western novel, at least of my generation. A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving was just an amazing story, you know, about, you know, faith. And then the one more recent one was The Green Mile by Stephen King. I just, you know, that was a story that I read and I wept openly. You know, because it was so unjust and yet it was real life. And I thought to myself, wow, I mean, if a book can really do that to you, that's what you're going for. So I'd say those three.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're naming all these books that inspire you. There are people out there that read your books and say the same exact thing about you. How does that feel to be able to be that person for somebody?
Humbling. It really is. It's very humbling when people call you and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you about what you do for a living. It's an incredibly humbling experience, and I'm grateful. You know, I'm really grateful when I receive emails from people that tell me that, you know, a book of mine touched their heart. I don't even know how to describe it really, but I think humbling is the best word, because I never thought, right, that my books would have that kind of an impact on people, and so to hear people say that, it makes me very proud, and in some respects, that is something that I give to my mom. I lost my mom just a couple months ago, and she was really my inspiration for writing. She was always the person that was saying, you can do this, and pushing me forward and handing me good books, that she had read. She was a big reader. So it's a testament, I think, to her, really.
Beautiful.
Oh, it's really powerful. I think we can end it right there. Robert Dugoni, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Well, there it is. It was so fun to be able to talk to him, and I just love the fact that we get these experiences to talk to authors, and they share advice. It almost seems like they're so eager to lift up fellow aspiring authors, because it's just such an awesome opportunity to be able to teach what you have and help out. Like, I don't want to say the next generation, because you really don't have to be any age to start writing.
And it's so, yes, I totally agree. I love how accessible he was. In this case, too, I'll even say, I don't remember if we said it in the interview, because we did shoot this interview a little while ago.
Yeah.
I literally reached out to him the day before he was coming to town on Instagram. And I'm like, if you even read this, would love to interview you. And he got back so quick. And I remember asking him about that, too. And he said it's because his daughter does his social media.
There you go.
And I'm like, I love that even more.
It reminds me of John Mars. Like, sometimes people are just so willing to put themselves out there if it's, the right fit. And we ended up getting him at the right time.
Yeah,
so
it was
way to
perfect.
track him down.
So really great guy. Let's talk about the book a little bit.
Yeah.
You get started.
Okay, so just a quick summary of My Sister's Grave. It is a legal thriller because Bob Dugoni is not only a writer, but he was a lawyer, too. He did it all, really.
Right.
So, as you saw in the interview, he kind of went into why he chose the life path that he did. But I think it's very useful if you end up having a book that you write about that, kind of surrounds that. So, it's good to know your stuff. So, it's a legal thriller following Seattle homicide detective Tracy Crossway, who spent 20 years obsessed with her sister Sarah's 1993 disappearance. When Sarah's remains are found near their small hometown, Tracy returns to said hometown to expose the truth, challenging the conviction of a local man and revealing dark, long-kept secrets. So, very, very gripping description. We were ready to read it. And for me, Rach, was it my favorite? And I felt so terrible to say that, but it was one of those books that I struggled to read through. Overall on Goodreads, I gave it 3 stars, leaning a little bit towards 2.5, and I'll get into why.
Okay, that was a good tease. I enjoyed it a little bit more. Tracy Crosswhite, too, this became a series that he did, so there's multiple Tracy Crosswhite novels. And we'll get into it more too after this. But I gave it 4 stars, but it was really more like 3.5, and I rounded up, which might have also been because I really liked him.
Yeah, it was very, very hard to give that review what it was. So I will give it a firm 3 on Goodreads, because I don't want to discourage anybody from trying somebody that does so, and he also does so many books too. Wouldn't be my last time that I would give it a try. He has a whole website that goes through all of his books. This one it may have been my personal relationship with Tracy. Just didn't love the character herself, and she was love or hate. I feel like. Part of we'll dive a little bit more into it when we come back from the break, but. Felt like it was an unhealthy obsession there with the with the situation, but that's what you wanted her to that's if you were about that, I think that you would have rated it a little bit higher. But for me, you know what, this is the perfect time to tease when we come back.
All right. Hello and welcome back to Chapter 9. We told you before the break, but now we are going to talk about My Sister's Grave. I'm going to show you that one more time. Again, not our favorite reads. Chrissy, I'll let you start first.
And one thing, I'll start with the positive. One thing I really did like was he did a really good job of meshing his like past, or I should say her, for writing for Tracy, like the past experiences of the relationship that Tracy had with her sister Sarah. Clearly they were best friends, and they really did, or he did a really good job of establishing the relationship between the two of them, made the, you know, backstory of like them being so close, and Sarah was a little bit of a tyrant when she was younger and like teased Sarah and like loved to play pranks, and really showed the vibrant personality that Sarah had that made Tracy love her so much and feel so protective of her. So I thought that was a really good meshing of explaining like Tracy and Sarah's past, of why she felt so compelled to protect Sarah, and she has this little bit of a vulnerable side by saying she's scared of the dark. And you know, as you know, at the end of the book, when you end up finding out what it ended up being, we won't jump straight there. I loved how they or how Bob tied in the "I am not afraid of the dark."
Yes,
I thought
I
that
did
was
too.
really good.
Totally.
Really good. You really know like how much Tracy loves Sarah, so I get that. And having a sister myself, it hit home in that way. For me though, I just couldn't get on board with Sarah just not being able to let go, I guess. I mean, call me lucky to never be in that situation, you know? But
I know.
like they made her just like everybody around her was like, what? Why won't you just let this go?
Yeah. Move on. You got to move on eventually. Yeah, I'm with you there. Starting with the positives, I'll say a lot of times I don't really like when male authors write female leads. Like, I'm like, ugh, I don't know. And I was okay with it. Like there was a few times with Dan O'Leary that I was kind of like, like I don't know. This feels not like something that I love, but overall, I was okay with it. So that I liked, like you said, I liked the relationship with Sarah. I liked the twists. I did not see this twist coming, and like you said, we'll get to it in a minute, like who the killer was, because it was like right in front of your face the whole time, and I think that was really interesting because I didn't guess it, and a lot of times I will guess the killer in these cases, and maybe it was because it was right in front of my face, but like I just figured like, oh yeah, of course it's not him because whatever. So I do like how he did that. Did you like that twist?
Very much so, because the entire time you're thinking, though, they had the wrong man and they cut corners, and you want to say shame on the sheriff for, you know, just doing what he could to, like, cause it to be done. But you don't realize that they knew it was him. They just couldn't find a way to prove it because it wasn't on tape when Edmund House admitted it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I was shocked, but I rolled my eyes reading it. I was like, oh, really? Like, it was him all along? But, like, and it also made me think, like, Tracy, you moron.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, I think that's what, I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's my guess that that's what Bob wanted the readers to think.
Yeah.
Like, you fought your way to get him out for it to be, you know, that situation.
I know.
I like, though, that when Tracy was, you know, kidnapped by Edmund House, she was never terrified.
No.
You could tell that she was a detective trying to work her way out of it, and like she even had the nerve to call like Edmund an idiot, and you know, found ways to like talk down to him to try to get him really riled up, because she ended up finding like the shiv that Sarah hid all these years. I did appreciate how it all unfolded that way. She wasn't like, they didn't have her just go full panic mode. She's like, okay, we have a plan here. We're gonna figure something out. We're gonna get out of this. And I liked one thing that I wish that Bob did a little bit more was develop the relationship with Dan. It just felt like childhood friends, sure, I'll help you as your lawyer. By the way, I've been in love with you this whole time. And then they go to bed together. It just was kind of just like, oh, okay. You know?
Well, that was kind of like the thing that I didn't like with the like male author writing a female lead. Like, I feel like that wouldn't have happened. I mean, maybe it would have, but I feel like that wouldn't have happened with a female author.
I think that there just could have been more to it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it was almost like a logistical sense of a romance. Like, yep, we've always crushed on each other. There it is, and now you're gonna help save me.
Yes,
You know?
I feel that too.
And there were a couple of twists and turns. Like, I was not expecting the dog to get shot. You know,
I know. Oh my gosh, I know.
I appreciate that detail because it does show the sacrifices that those around Tracy have to make because of her being determined to figure it out. You know, and that was kind of random, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, it was a lot of stuff, a lot of times rather that I would be reading the book and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. And I definitely enjoyed it more than you because I actually read it. It took you a little longer to get through it. I read it, I think, in like a week. I read it pretty quick. And I did enjoy it while I was reading it. It's one of those books for me where when I finished it, I was like, oh, I love this book. It's a 4-star. And then as you and I discussed it more, I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I didn't really like that. Oh, I guess I didn't really like that either. Like, so I do think for a lot of people, they will like this. And I think that's also probably why he turned it into a full series, the Tracy Crosswhite series, because there is a lot to do with her. And even though she was obsessive and a little crazy, I did like her, and I am rooting for her. So I can see that part too.
Yeah, I can absolutely see why she's a likable character. And I really think that it was appropriate to have Tracy's, ex in the picture.
Yeah.
I actually appreciated that to show like the sacrifices that she ended up making relationship wise to end up being where she ended up losing, who was the love of her life because she chose Sarah over Ben. So,
yeah. Well, speaking about Sarah, this story is told using vignettes of Tracy's and Sarah's pasts, with the majority of the book being told in the present. What did you think about that? I did not mind that. I never felt lost. I was okay with it. There are some times when I'm reading a book that has multiple POVs or multiple timelines that I'm like, wait, where are we? What's happening? I did not have that with this. I will say in this case, a lot of times I listen to books. I read this one. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. Did the multiple timelines, what did you think of that? Did that bother you at all?
No, not at all. I actually thought it was kind of great that they were able to show the backstory of Sarah through the lens of Tracy.
Okay. Who is your favorite character?
I think that's so hard to pick because, to be honest, there wasn't one personality that I really enjoyed, which I think contributed to why I gave it what I gave it rating-wise. I don't know. I think I saw a lot of potential in Dan. They made it seem like he always had her back and wanted to root for her. It felt to me a little bit of an underdeveloped character, but when you're reading and when you get to a certain chapter and they bring up the names of people, you're like, oh, good, I'm glad we're going back to them.
Yeah.
That's how I always felt about Dan. Like when they brought him back into a scene, I was excited to learn more about how his relationship has evolved with Tracy from childhood to, really fighting to represent. And I really did like you said, he did a good job of portraying a woman without it being too over the top.
Yes, I agree.
She did have inklings of I'm seeing him differently,
Yes.
why am I really excited to see him? It's because you have a crush on him.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to talk about some of the supporting characters.
Please.
Because there were some supporting characters I really loved, and then also, so I'll talk about that, and then some that I absolutely hated, and you and I discussed this one a little bit. So, favorite supporting characters for me were her colleagues. I really liked the detectives, how they portrayed them as these gruff detectives that have been in the business forever. It reminded me of New York City detectives, and they were just good supporting characters. I liked that, and I liked her situation of where she went with her life and how she became a detective after all of this. So I really liked that. My least favorite character, and I hate when authors do this, and I
think I know where you're
going
going
to tell Bob this too, is when they portray reporters in such a bad light. I forget her name now, but the girl that was the reporter.
Yes.
That she was a slut, and she was scummy, and she would do anything to get the story. And I just hate when authors do this because it is just not true at all. Talk to a reporter. I was an investigative reporter for years. I never dug in someone's trash. I never snuck into their house. I never slept with anyone to get the story. I just hate that because I think that gets into people's heads because that's in so many books and so many movies, and then that's why people don't like us.
Yeah,
So I'm
I cringed every time Tracy had an interaction with her because she was like, "What do you want now?" And honestly, some of the points that she was making, saying wouldn't you want an exclusive to have your side be heard, were valid in my opinion. I'm like, yeah, don't you want your side to be heard?
Right.
I get you're grieving your sister, but don't you see episodes of 2020 where people actually get the word out?
I know. And I didn't like that again, like there's so many now. Again, this book was written a while ago, so I'll give him that. But there's so many times now in books where I feel like the females empower each other.
Yes.
And it was like the exact opposite of that.
Yeah,
Two
no,
strong females, like they could have like worked together, and that could have been like a nice.
That
piece
is
of the
kind of the
story.
direction I thought the book was going to end up going. That at the end she was going to be able to say her piece and talk about it, and you know, they almost hinted at it at the end of the book when saying, you know, you survived this, and it just didn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
So
true.
no, I wholeheartedly agree. I thought it was a misrepresentation of what at least my experience with being in local media is about.
Yeah.
Really hate the whole like, oh, got to get on the other side of like the house to avoid the swarm of reporters.
Yeah.
First of all, wholeheartedly, we do not have the resources to just be sitting outside of someone's house.
Especially
we barely
this is a
have
small
the resources
market.
to go up to.
Yeah, and this is a very small
The-
market.
yeah,
They like
the
make that
fringe
clear.
viewing areas.
There would
when
be
we
like
can.
maybe one, like maybe two.
Maybe, and that's
Yeah.
for a really, really high profile case.
Yeah,
Like
they
an
wouldn't be staked
extremely-
out for weeks and weeks and weeks.
No, and like
know.
obviously, if this happened in a small town, this would be considered high profile.
Yeah,
of course,
sure.
but would not be just dodging reporters. Yeah,
So that I really
Yeah.
didn't like that.
same.
But I did love all the supporting characters, so I wanted to like what do they say? Compliment sandwich there.
Yeah, big
um,
time.
How did you feel about Dan? I think we both liked Dan.
No, I said he was my favorite character for
Yeah.
sure. I thought that he brought a lot to the book, and when you have these thrillers, it's nice to have like the love interest sprinkled in there somehow.
Yeah.
Again, I think that more could have been done with him, but I appreciated his character, and he did bring the lawyer side. Honestly, though, I cannot call him my favorite character just out of principle, but Edmund House was absolutely the most intriguing person because
Yeah.
you just think he's some weirdo that was like, misunderstood, but no, he was the crazy person after all that genuinely, like, I was most intrigued by him, probably just because I am fascinated by serial killer,
Yeah.
like, stuff, like, hearing, like, the psychological, mess that is
Kinda like The
inside their
One.
brain. Exactly.
Although
exactly.
after reading The One, I agree with you. I really liked Edmund too.
Yeah.
But after reading The One, like I feel like that serial killer was just a lot more developed.
Big time.
Like-
This one, I mean, like, there's one, like, there are clearly smart psychopaths, and then he
Yes.
was delusional. I think my
Yes.
favorite part of the book was when they did the flashback to Sarah being with Edmund, and Edmund genuinely thought that Sarah was in love with him. Like,
Yeah.
he said to Tracy, no, we're in love. Like, we were in love. And I actually, this is where I would boost it to 3 stars. I thought that they did a fantastic job of Edmund working at the school, that Tracy
Yeah.
was a chemistry teacher at, I believe, or was it forensics, something along those lines
Right,
of
right.
science, and Edmund was a janitor and said, I've been in love with you and I've been following you since then. I genuinely thought that it was you in the truck.
I know.
Or in the car, like that I thought was so brilliantly done on Bob's part that made me, appreciate the book more, that it tied in that you and your sister look so much alike, she'll have to do, and then
And-
he falls in love with her,
Yeah, and just that whole bit, like adding to Tracy's guilt, like
Yeah.
that it could have
It
been
would've been
her
me,
and it would have been
yes.
her. Totally agree.
But
Yeah.
Sarah knew that, which is
Yeah.
why she sent that message to
I
her on the wall
know.
and hid that stick or whatever
Yeah.
sharp item that ended up being Edmund's downfall. So I will say the book extremely picked up at the end, where I wanted to, and
And the be afraid of the dark thing, like because that
Yes.
kept coming up, and then it did a full circle, which was really really cool.
And I will say the most gripping, there's that like part of a book, like it could be any type of book, but mostly suspense, where you feel like you have to be reading at like triple speed because you just want to
Yes.
know what happens. You almost want to skip a chapter or like skip a paragraph just to
Yeah.
find out. I got to that part where you think for a second that Sarah was alive and hiding somewhere because Edmund was going to let her go. And as
I
she sees the light, like
know.
sees the outside light, she's like, I can't wait to find my family. He kills her.
I know.
Like that
That was heart wrenching.
was such a mixed bag of emotions where I was like, oh, like that.
I
If
know.
there was a little bit more of that in this book, it absolutely would have been one of my favorites. It just didn't come to fruition in ways that
Yeah.
I picture a thriller book. So I don't want to discourage anybody as we're talking about this to not give it a try, because to Rachel's point, she loved Tracy. And, you know, she just wasn't my cup of tea, but I would highly recommend Bob Dugoni just for being a great guy after interviewing him to give any one of his books a try.
Yeah, and I do want to try, I think it's The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hill. He had mentioned that to us, too. That was almost what we picked, because he said it's not my typical, like, Tracy Crosswhite book. And I think he gets into some, like, historical fiction there. And a piece of me almost wishes we would have went with that one, because I think that's more of our cup of tea.
Yeah, and I'll absolutely give that a try.
I totally will too.
I don't like to just like you don't judge a book by its cover. I don't love judging an author by one book. You know.
What a good line.
Thanks.
Oh.
No, but really, I think you really should, like, before you completely, no pun intended, write off an author.
Look at you.
know?
On a roll.
No, really, don't you think so? Like,
yeah. Oh, totally.
You know, that's like.
No, it's true. Frida, for me.
Yeah,
I don't like Frida McFadden books.
And,
I will,
but you've given her several chances.
And I like some of them.
And it's just not your style overall, you know?
Yeah, but I've liked some of them. I liked Housemaid.
Yes.
Did not like Boyfriend.
Yes.
I'm forgetting now.
No.
I've read many of them. So totally.
Just like Colleen
Hoover.
Hoover, I know you said isn't your favorite. Verity overall, that was my first book from her, you know? And if, you know, there was another book that I picked up from Bob Dugoni, and I probably could have had a completely different opinion, and you don't know. But, you know, again, you know how we sway either way sometimes? I think I would boost this to a 3-star based on our conversation, and
that's funny. And I'm, like, on the fence now. I'm like, do I want to do 3? I was 3.5.
We can meet in the middle at 3.
You want to do that? Let's do 3. I feel good about 3.
Yeah, 3 is good.
Do we want to touch on at all the sheriff and her dad planting the evidence? Because we talked about that a little bit before.
If I was Tracy,
that was interesting.
I'd feel so betrayed. Like, it was a labor of.
Meant to go to you.
No, it's okay. It was a labor of love. Like,
I know.
In a sense of they put all this effort into hiding it from her, but in my opinion, someone should have told her. You know, I mean, that the book wouldn't have been as good as it was if it was just like, here, you know, don't put in any effort. But I don't know, like, for the sake of a guilty man being taken out, they couldn't have mentioned it. You know?
I know.
But he was worried about his career. Like, there was selfish ties there. And, of course, he promised to her dad that he wouldn't, like, come on, guy. You were just protecting your job.
That, and then also, like, now, when you know she's going full speed on this investigation again, and, like, now her dad's dead, like, just tell her. Oh, my God. Like, she's trying to get this guy out of prison.
100%.
Be like, you could even just be like, look, I know I might have messed up. Me and your dad, like, just we messed up. We shouldn't have done this.
Tracy ends up
but she is the killer.
Yeah. And you know how they wrap up the end of it by having a funeral for Sarah again. You know, assuming again now that they knew where the body was.
Yeah.
And she covers for the sheriff, saying, "Oh, they had nothing to do with it." So, I mean, I don't know. I think it was kind of like some moments, and this kind of sounds harsh, I don't mean it to be, but a stretch in some ways.
Oh yeah, I think that's fair. But what we didn't touch on, do you think they did the right thing in planting the evidence because they couldn't prove it?
Call me cynical, but I'm kind of for it. It's a guilt. Like,
he's guilty.
There's that, like, quote that they had in the beginning of saying, like, better to have, like, I forget what it was, but, like, talking about how it's better to have, like, 10 guilty people out than an innocent one in or something like that. And it made you think in the beginning of, you know, that he was innocent, but he was actually guilty. You know? So, like, he was meant to be in prison one way or another. So, it really makes you question the justice system and how many times that's actually happened, where, you know, and in the other way, where there were innocent people that were framed because it was just easier for the police department to lock someone away, you know.
And as journalists, we've covered those stories. You know, that's why the Innocent Project exists in a lot of these organizations.
Yeah, but, like, knowing that he was guilty, you want to root for, like, that to be it.
Yes,
you know?
I think you're right.
And having a protective father, I think there are no bounds my dad wouldn't go to protect me. And knowing that, like, if he had failed one of my sister or I, you can't tell a father how to feel about wanting justice for his daughter, you know? So I want to root for them in some capacity, even though black and white, it's wrong. Yeah. It's wrong to root for them. But, you know, Bob Dugoni did good in that way, and making you feel torn at your own moral compass.
Well, if you want to read it, I think that does it for us.
Yes.
It is My Sister's Grave, Robert Dugoni.
Don't knock it till you try it.
Don't knock it till you try it.
Seriously.
I like that. I like that. Let's tease our next book. I'm
Yes.
really excited for this. Fourth Wing!
Yeah, many people have probably read this, but this was my first time. You know why? Because I desperately want to give fantasy a try. Rachel's a big fan.
I almost hit the mic. I'm so excited.
Yes. And you know what? I was between that and the ACOTAR series, and I chose Fourth Wing because I heard that if you're going to try to dig into that realm, it is a good start and not so enthralled in like the fantasy that you're going to get lost.
Totally.
Yeah, like too lost.
Yes. And I'll say for me, this was one of my first fantasy books, I think. I read this a few years ago, so I'll probably do a refresher. Don't be discouraged when you see the length. It is very long, but it's so good.
Yes.
She, like, develops a whole world. And so and also don't be discouraged, like, the first, like, 5, even 10 chapters, because she's building a new world that you've never seen before. So, like, there's a lot of characters and a lot of names. It will all come together. It will all make sense. It's such a good book.
I'm excited.
I'm
I'm
I
excited.
just loved it.
The hype around it seems real. I do believe they plan on making a series of some sort.
Oh, do they? I don't know if I knew that yet.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, there's 3 of them, too. So if you fall in love with this like I did, then you can read Iron Flame, and then you can read Onyx Storm. I believe the author, Rebecca Yarros, is taking a break right now.
I don't blame her.
She got
Those are some pretty hefty books.
And she blew
She's doing
up.
okay for herself.
Yeah, she blew up
she probably can take
online.
a moment to just pause. But
Yeah.
I have a feeling, though, that her work won't be over based on the fandom that she has. So I'm excited to read Fourth Wing.
Me too.
Excited to hear your thoughts, too. And as always, if you have a book that you want us to read, tell us. You know,
Yes.
we would love to hit recommendation. Our to be read on Goodreads is forever expanding.
Yes, and to that end, so many local authors have been reaching out to us lately.
Yeah.
So that makes me so happy, and we are going to get to those books. So
Yes, we'll get there.
keep watching with us. I am going to show our awesome studio here one more time before we go and just say thank you for reading. Oh, look, it's John and Carson.
Oh, that's
Well, if you missed chapter 9.
yeah, right? Oh,
Oh.
see, I like
they all
that.
go
See, as you can tell, it's
through.
new, so we're still getting
like
used
it.
to it too. Oh, I love that. I'll
Very
just take a minute
fun.
to appreciate. Shout out
This
to
is-
our
yeah, this
Channel
is-
9 team for
yeah.
constantly being creative and finding new stuff. Here, that's the perfect way. See, check out all of our shows on WSYR Plus.
Let's wait one more second, and even
Well,
better. I was
download
hoping
for
it would be
free.
chapter 9, but that's how you get it. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for reading Beyond the Prompter with us. There it is. We did it. The whole rotation. See you later.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.